How's it going, guys? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. For today's build, I'm going to be making a custom coiled USB-C cable for my mechanical keyboard. So let's start with the basic supplies needed. First off, you will need a soldering iron and of course some solder. Next will be some sort of connector. I'm using a 5-pin GX16 for my cable. Next will be some sort of heat shrink to secure all the finished sleeves and connections. You will also need some 550 paracord in the color of your choice. Some 3mm TechFlex sleeving. I'm using black, but there are different colors available for this as well. And then of course, a pre-made cable that fits your keyboard. I'm going to be using this USB Type-C. Now the reason I'm using a pre-made cable is simple. If I was to make the entire cable from scratch, that would mean the USB connector and the keyboard connector would be secured with flimsy heat shrink. And honestly, that's nowhere near the quality of an injection molded plastic that comes standard on pre-made cables. I will leave the details of the sizes I used for each of the sleeves and cables in the description. So let's get started. First, I'm going to cut the cord about 10 to 15 centimeters from the top. This will leave enough room for stripping the wires and the connector with enough on the end for the small coil. The cord that came for free with my keyboard already has a braided sleeve, so I'll carefully cut the braid at the ends of the cords so I can take off this sleeving. Now I'll use the red paracord. I'll cut extra length because when the paracord is sleeved, it loses some of its length in thickness, so make sure the amount of paracord is longer than the cord you are sleeving. After you have cut the paracord to length, remove the white core strands, so all that's left is the sleeve. When you start feeding the sleeve over the cord, it can take a while. Just feed it softly. The more you try to pull the sleeving over, the tighter it will get. Next is the TechFlex. This should be a lot quicker than the paracord. Remember to cut more than is needed, as when it gets thicker it will lose some length. After it's fed all the way down, trim the frayed sleeves and cut a small piece of heat shrink to secure the ends. When applying heat to the heat shrink, try to make it as quick as possible, as the TechFlex and the paracord will burn very easily and you'll have to start again. After that, we can get started on the connector. Start by carefully stripping the plastic cord and then strip each wire individually. After that's done, you will need to disassemble the connector by removing the small screws. Now before you solder the connection, you will have to pre-assemble what's needed after the connection has been made. This means cutting some heat shrink and sliding it onto the cord, also putting the connector shell ready for assembly. Now we can get to the soldering. When it comes to the order of soldering, it doesn't really matter. You just have to make sure that on both sides of the connectors, the correct color wires line up, unless you are making multiple cords and you want them all to be interchangeable. After the soldering is done, I will leave that side of the cord and repeat the same steps on the longer half of the cable. And then soldering the second side, making sure all the wire connections are identical on each side. Then I can finish the connector by using the heat shrink on the exposed solder. As of right now, it's a fully functional cord. However, most people like the aesthetics of a coiled cord, so I'll do a small coil. Because I'm using a cord I got for free, the length was about 1.5 meters, but if I was to do a proper full coil, you would want around 3 meter cord. The pipe I'm using for my coils is 12 millimeter. Don't recommend this diameter. I would say use a 10 millimeter tube. I didn't have any on hand, so I just went with the 12. Then you will need to secure each of the ends and start heating the coil. Try to make the coil as tight as possible. The heating process will take a while. You need to heat the coil enough so it thermoforms to the shape without melting the cord or the sleeving. After the heating, you will need to let it sit. I left mine overnight, but as soon as it cools down, it should be alright. With that done, you have a finished cord. So let's give it a little bit of a testing. I hope you enjoyed today's build. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment of a future build. Have a good one. I see you've made it to the end. Why don't you subscribe and check out some of our other builds? Go on, what are you waiting for?